A Ceylonese man stands on his veranda. His hands tremble as he grasps the Times of Ceylon. The headline, in unusually large print, hollers out confirmation of terrible news. It is 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, September 26th, 1959, and not a single Ceylonese has slept in 24 hours. Through the night, the entire country has been kept company by the strained voices of presenters of Radio Ceylon, as they are urgent special bulletins and break only occasionally for recitation of Paritha, Buddhist Gatha invoking safeguards and protection. The man lowers his gaze. His hands shake as the newspaper falls to the floor. The headline reads, "The Prime Minister is dead." Sir Solomon Dias Bandaranaike is an imposing man who has come from a long line of Mudaliars. The Mudaliar is a headman class created by the Portuguese as an effective way of keeping influential natives placated and others in check. The powerful family traces their lineage back to headmen who adopted Anglicanism from the Dutch, Catholicism from Portuguese nobility. Before that, they were Buddhists, who had originally been Hindus. The British have given Sir Solomon many titles, including Muhandiram of the Governor's Gate and later Mahamudaliar. The title of Mahamudaliar is granted to the chief of the network of British-appointed Ceylonese headmen. Headmen are given some local power and act as local intelligence. Sir Solomon, despite not having completed secondary school, is at the top. A loyal collaborator to the governor, and he has power over the natives. He has been knighted and even been admitted to the most distinguished order of St. Michael and St. George, an order of chivalry that was rarely bestowed even on distinguished white Englishmen. He dines at Buckingham Palace when in London and accompanies British nobility who visit the island. Sir Solomon marries Daisy Eslin Obesekera, a second cousin from a far wealthier branch of the family. Their marriage is unhappy. Sir Solomon is pompous and insists on adopting British protocols, wearing full ceremonial dress for dinner, even if dining alone, just in case a British visitor should drop in. Lady Bandaranaike, on the other hand, is said to be intelligent, with a fiery temper and an arrogance surpassing that of her husband's, rarely letting him forget his source of wealth and what she thinks of his social climbing. Their first child is a son, born in 1899, christened by joining up both his father and his godfather's names. His godfather is then Governor of Ceylon, Colonel Sir West Ridgway. And so, Solomon West Ridgway Dias Bandaranaike, or S.W.R.D. as he will be known in our story, squawks into the baptismal font and begins a life of greatness. How could it possibly have gone any other way? They have two daughters, Alexandra Camelia and Anna Florentina. Soon after their second daughter is born, the Bandaranaike marriage is nearly finished. The lady is believed to be forced to leave with her two young girls and lives in exile from the family mansion, Horogolla Valauwa, and from her son. But through the rest of her days, she writes aching letters to the boy she left behind.
My whole heart craves for you, my son,
she would say. For young S.W.R.D, the separation is a loss of family and warmth. He wanders around the halls of Horogolla isolated, kept away from other native children for fear of disease, reminded of his superior status and forced to follow a strict code of anglicized etiquette imposed by his father. He says of his early days, "I was brought up with the idea of greatness and superiority to others surrounding me, and imbued with the notion of my greatness to come." Young S.W.R.D. quarrels with his British school teachers, who he believes treat him as an ordinary boy. Even as an adolescent, he wants his boyhood ideals to be respected. Privately, he hates the way his father bows to the Englishman, and once, as a 10-year-old, even snubs Governor Robert Chalmers. But S.W.R.D., even his critics will admit, has a once-in-a-generation mind and is determined to prove it. his childhood loneliness starves his fertile intellect, but alone, he has time to gather his thoughts on rising to greatness. For now, the young boy plays tennis, reads feverishly, and infuriates his private British tutors, though his favorite pastime is shooting champagne bottles off the Horogolla veranda. In 1916, a sheltered but bright 17-year-old S.W.R.D. enters St. Thomas's College boarding school, a prestigious boys' school in Colombo with a chip on his shoulder. The Bandaranaike Mudaliars need to achieve their stripes rather than inherit them. St. Thomas's is not much better for him. Instead of living in dorms with other boys, his father has him lodge with the warden. He is a social outcast and does not participate in all-important team sports. Instead, he excels in solitary activities like tennis, debating, and writing. He takes schoolwork so seriously, if another boy's essay is judged better, he has been known to throw a tantrum. As usual, S.W.R.D. directs his anger at schoolboy rules which he believes shouldn't apply to him. But he was not above being reasoned with. One day, Warden Stone, a master of classical Greek, sees his light on well past midnight and gently explains how he would be less effective as he grows tired. The boy is moved and apparently never stayed up past 10:30 p.m. again. This relationship influences S.W.R.D. to pursue classics at Oxford, and it is there where he sets off to in the autumn of 1919. At his first year at Christ Church College, Oxford, he feels what many Sri Lankans do on foreign soil, an acute sense of being an outsider. He is usually mistaken for being Indian, which he does not always mind, but he wants to be known. He wants to be revered. But the British have both soft and hard barriers to foreigners entering their inner sanctum. First, he believes that most Indian students, towards their white counterparts, are servile and pathetic. He attributes this to the effect of colonialism. He believes that, while there is a common culture between Indians and Ceylonese, there is a stark difference in psychology. To his white peers, S.W.R.D. wants to be considered distinct from them. Second, there is clear racism. There are areas of Oxford where brown-skinned students simply are not welcome. One day, a white English college mate invites a number of Indian students for tea. As the minutes go by, S.W.R.D. grows angrier and more impatient at the Indian students' embarrassing lack of conversation and deference that he storms off. It takes a long stare across Magdalen Bridge for him to formulate his strategy for standing out. Before I am their equal, I must be their superior. That means showing off his strengths. He narrows down what he could beat everyone else at, and there are three things: writing Greek prose, tennis, and debating. For the rest of his time at Oxford, he works on getting his tennis colours, and of course trying desperately to get into the Oxford Union, the world's best-known debating society where he believes he can really shine. S.W.R.D. receives a second-class upper in classics and immediately decides to stop working so hard. In his words, he wanted to learn something that was not likely to cause too great a strain on my time and energy. So, he takes up law. He has nothing nice to say about the bar exam when he passes it with no preparation. But it is at the Oxford Union where S.W.R.D., the young orator, sharpens his ideas and his wit. It is here where he develops a thread of arguments on anti-imperialism and starts thinking about the cost of ignorance, disease and poverty on his own country people. But most importantly, what would win their souls. As we will learn, S.W.R.D. is a man of tightly wrapped contradictions. He is capable of holding two completely opposing ideas and believing both. But most importantly, he is a pragmatist. At Oxford Union, he has to deal with a racist and rheumatic steward who is concerned at this dark-skinned young man taking on a senior post at the Union. But the steward, whose name is Gill, is an equal opportunity crank and even annoys the British Union members. One day, the Union Secretary bursts in accusing S.W.R.D. of grovelling to Gill in a manner that doesn't suit the senior Union leaders. SWRD has been spending hours having tea with Mr. and Mrs. Gill and inquiring after their health to pacify the old man and make his own life at the Union easier. A pragmatist. At the Union, he makes a serious name for himself. He debates on a range of topics with a number of eminent personalities. His rapid speech, brilliant arguments, and the ability to hold an audience captivated is widely celebrated. But we will only mention one accolade from a fierce rival who has up to now never acknowledged SWRD, but finally passes him a note in his final debate. Dear Bandaranaike, congratulations! I am confirmed in my opinion you are the best speaker of us all. He finishes as junior treasurer of the Union and returns to Ceylon armed with a serious education and ideas for liberating his people. On a hot day in March 1925, SWRD is welcomed by great fanfare. Sir Solomon has organized a procession, starting with blessings at All Saints Church and many stops on the way, ending in a grand celebration back at home in Weerakoon. But he's about to get into a sticky situation. On one stop in Patta, he is to make a vote of thanks to the community who have praised him lavishly for his Oxford achievements. After years at the Union, this would be a piece of cake. This would be the place where SWRD, the young returnee, could even mark the start of his political career. Then, his father's aide drops a bombshell. The entire speech is to be in Sinhala. 5 years abroad had drained what little Sinhala he had left, and he notices the journalist in the crowd. What is he to do? Catch us next week on Patta History as we find out how SWRD climbs up the power ladder. A special thanks to our Patreon members for their continued support. To find out how you can get Patreon membership, click on the link in our description box. Thank you for watching.